Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Wanted to seek the blessings of Radha Madhava, Radha Shamsala, Krishna Balaram, Bal Gopal, Gaunitai Srila Prabhupada, and Guru Maharaj, and the assembled devotees, so that we look at the Sanatana Dharma course in the scriptures today. We wanted to look at how the Vedic literatures are divided into two main categories. Shruti, that which has been heard, the revealed truths, and it consists of revelations and unquestionable truth, and is therefore considered eternal. These principles don't necessarily change. Shruti means the Vedas and Upanishads. And Smriti, that which has been remembered, realized truth, remembered mainly by the sages. They're supplementary, they may change over time. They include the Puranas and Itihasas. They are authoritative only to the extent that it conforms to the bedrock of Shruti. So Smriti and Shruti are linked. Smriti is considered to be less weighty than Shruti. So, most important scripture that we refer to is Bhagavad Gita. So, which is it, Shruti or Smriti? Shruti means it's got a lot more authority. Apart from Bhagavata Puran, which is also considered to be the spotless Puran. So, Gita is Shruti because it's directly spoken to Krishna himself, to Arjuna. So, okay. It's also Smriti because it's contained within Mahabharata, which is history, Itihas. So Itihas happened in the past, it's remembered and then written down by Vyasadeva. So Smriti is something that's been remembered, where Shruti is something that has been heard directly from the authoritative source. So Gita is considered Shruti because it was directly spoken to Arjuna by Krishna himself. So that's why Gita has got so much authority behind it, very authoritative. Vedic science is vast and nothing has been left uncovered in Vedic investigation of reality and search for the truth. And in its presentation of what is God, the format of this knowledge is as follows. So Vedas, originally they were one, but then Srila Vyasadeva split it into four to make it a little bit more comprehensible and easier to understand. There's the Rig Veda, which is the Veda of praise. These are hymns mainly of praise to the Devatas, such as Indra, the god of heaven, and rain, Agni, the god of fire, Surya, the sun god. These mantras are invoked during Vedic sacrifices, ceremonies, for ensuring immediate material needs. Now, Shruti, that which has been heard, includes the Vedas, and the Vedas generally are to promote one to the heavens, because it's very difficult to surrender to the Lord directly. Hence, the Lord is somewhat hidden in the Vedas, especially Krishna. So who is more prominent are the Devatas, like Indra and Agni and Surya, like that. Part of the Rig Vedas primarily deals with the Soma ritual, which was the extraction and purification of the juice of the Soma herb, an addictive beverage. So the demigods, they always partake in this drink of Soma juice. These hymns in the Rig Vedas were chanted by four priests who conducted the Vedic rituals, namely the Hota, who calls the gods with the mantras from the Rig Veda. only the Brahmin priests who could be sure of chanting the mantras accurately. So you have to be very, very precise. The mantras have to be chanted in the right rhythm and the right pronunciation so that they can produce the desired result. If the mantras are chanted incorrectly by someone who was not qualified, the desired result would not take place. And often something undesirable or horrible would happen instead. So this is why in this age of Kali, the Vedas are not generally used by the devotee community. They're not entertained because they're very, they're difficult. The mantras are not easy to pronounce. Have to be qualified Brahmin to chant them in the right way. Otherwise, the impact will be could be the opposite of what one is looking for. The important Purusha Shukta hymn in the 90th chapter of the Rig Vedas is in the Rig Vedas, 10th mandal. So this is Purusha Shukta is a prayer which is recited by the Devatas when they are approaching Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, when they need protection from the Lord. And headed by Brahma, they go to Kshirodakshaya Vishnu within this world and in Shvetadvip. And they pray, they recite this Purusha Shukta, which is a very interesting prayer. Okay, so that's Rig Veda. Yajurved is the Veda of rituals. So Rig Veda is the Veda of hymns, praise. Yajurved, and in some places in South Bharat, the Rig Veda is still taught, especially in Udupi, right? in the ashrams of Madhvacharya, in the mutts. They're still teaching those prayers. The Yajurved is the Veda of rituals containing different levels of knowledge and wisdom. Yajurved has 109 branches of knowledge. But now only parts of 7 branches are found. So over time, many of the Vedas have been lost, much of the Vedas. The Yajurved, however, has 2 samhitas or collections of verses known as the White Yajurved or Vajasani Samhita with the hymns and rituals, and the Black Yajurved for Taittiriya Samhita with their interpretations. These are primarily for the priest to use as a guide in performing sacred rituals. Remember, this is Yajurved is the Veda of rituals. So these all guide how to perform these rituals, such as the Ashwamedha or the Rajasuya sacrifice. So we hear about these quite a lot. The Yudhishthira Maharaji performed the Rajasuya Yagya. Ashwamedha, many have. In the Bhagavad Puran, it's described how so many kings would perform this, or they would have this Ashwamedha performed for them. So they would use a guide as a guide in performing sacred rituals such as these, since they also contain directions or formulas that the priests use along with the verses that are sung during the ceremony. So very, very specific yagya, Veda, all about rituals. Some of it, the Veda of melodies contains 1,549 verses meant to be used as songs in various ceremonies, primarily for the Udgata priest. Most of them are taken from the Rig Veda and arranged according to their use as utilized in particular rituals. From the original 1,000 branches of the Samveda, 3 are still available, of which Kautumya and Jaiminia are prominent. So Rig Vedas was a Veda of praise or hymns, Yajur is rituals, and the Sama is melodies. So these mantras need to be chanted in a specific pronunciation and a certain particular rhythm or meter. Atharva Ved is the Veda of chants, contains prayers, spells, incantations, and resemble magical instructions found in the Tantras. The Atharva Ved contains a small section of verses of instruction, wisdom, description of the soul and God. So we notice that there isn't a whole load in the Vedas about the soul or God. However, the majority of it, the Ved, consists of rules for worshipping the planets, rules for oblations and sacrifices, prayers for averting evil and disease, incantations for the destruction of enemies, for fulfilling personal desires, mostly for material needs of people. So the 4 Vedas mainly deal with the material elevation. The idea is we are in this world and we're stuck in this world. What the Vedas does is gives a step-by-step way to progress in this world, to improve oneself. But it's a slow process. And generally they deal with material elevation, so better material position. And since Lord Vishnu is the Lord of material liberation, most sacrifices were directed towards the demigods. So vast majority of the recommendation of Vedas is to worship the devatas, to get that material elevation, to go to heaven. The Vedas represent the accomplishment of a highly developed religious system and encourage satisfaction of material desires through the worship of demigods. Why is that encouraged? Because at least if there's some acknowledgement that there's a higher power than us who is providing the benefits, that is good for the Atma, that is good for the person. Otherwise, the false ego is so strong that it will make us think that I am the doer. But if we have to be in a position where we are asking others, like the devatas, then at least we know there's a higher power. So there's one sort of step towards Supreme. The Vedas contain many directions for increasing one's power and position, or for reaching the heavens in one's future by properly performing particular sacrifices in sacrifice to the devatas, etc. So this can be a little bewildering. So some people do ask, why there are so many gods within Vedic culture? Right? That's a very common question. So many gods we have, so many, right? It's like a polytheistic religion. It's perceived like that. Actually, the position is there's one supreme being who has many agents who are also known as demigods, devatas, who assist in managing the creation and the natural forces within. So for example, Indra is in charge of rain, Vayu is in charge of wind, Agni is in charge of fire. So these natural forces are controlled by the devatas in conjunction with the Supreme Lord, of course, because of the direction from the Lord. When these demigods are properly approached with prayer or worship, they may help the person who is approaching them by granting certain wishes that may be within the jurisdiction of that demigod. So a demigod can't overstep his mark. He has a particular jurisdiction. He can award benefits to his worshippers according to that. The names of these demigods are considered offices or positions. So Indra, king of heaven, is a position like the prime minister. He's probably more like the home office, isn't it? Indra. Home office. Or
home secretary.
Or agricultural, maybe. Agricultural minister, because he's in charge of rains. Rather than the actual name of the demigods. For example, we may call the president of the country by his personal name or simply Mr. President. It's the position itself that allows for him to have certain powers or area of influence. So it's not that those demigods are particularly powerful in themselves. They occupy a position which gives them that power. In the case of the devas, it is only after accumulating much pious credit. They have done a lot of good karma, that a living being can earn the position of being a particular demigod. So if one wants to become Indra, it is possible for the living entity, but you have to do a lot of good karma. A lot of good karma. Then a person may become an Indra or Vayu, or attain some other position to assume specific powers, or to control various aspects of material energy. And generally, these souls would be those who are aspiring for authority and power, prestige, fame, money, enjoyment. Because these positions carry with it a great deal of all of those things. According to the Vedas, devas are not imaginary or mythical beings, but are agents of the supreme will to administer different aspects of the universal affairs. So this is quite an important aspect of Vedic Dharma, to understand there's only one God. Okay. The main subject of the Ved is Karma Kanda. Right? So this is where it does get a little confusing. Why? Why? Why is Veda, which is Shruti, why is it encouraging Karma Kanda? What does Karma Kanda mean? It's a business. I worship you, my dear demigod, you give me. I want this, so I'll worship you, and you provide. Okay, the Karma Kanda section is meant to supply the rituals for purifying our mind and actions in pursuit of our desires, and not merely to live with the intent of acquiring all of one's material wants and necessities from the demigods. So the idea of Karma Kanda is actually to purify our mind and actions. At the same time, fulfilling our desires. So our desires get fulfilled, but at the same time, there's some purificatory process going on. By having faith and steadiness in the performance of the ritual, one establishes purification in one's habits and thoughts. This provides a gradual process of acquiring one's needs and working out one's desires while simultaneously becoming purified and free from them. So the idea is we fulfill the desires, but at the same time, we're purifying our mind and hence getting rid of the seed of desire. Such purification can then bring one to a higher level of spiritual reality. So that's why it's a very gradual process. Vedas doesn't say surrender everything and to the Supreme Lord and take shelter of him, and that's it. Because nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do that. So the Vedas gives a gradual process, a palatable process. This was a higher purpose of the karma kand rituals. Without this understanding, one misses the point and remains attached to the rituals in pursuance of material desires, which will drag one further into material existence. In this way, it was recommended that people could perform sacrificial rituals to obtain their desires. However, by the performance of such acts, they should understand their dependent position. This is the point that we're thinking, that where this will lead us is we are subordinate. We're dependent on the demigods for our needs. But not only on the demigods, ultimately the Supreme Being. So it's that gradual process that helps one understand who we are. So another question, those who are interested in spiritual knowledge, do they do karma kanda activities? In Bhagavad Gita, see, because Bhagavad Gita is a summary of the whole Vedic philosophy, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is very clear, very clear. Lord Krishna points out that men of small knowledge, those who are not so intelligent, who are given, who like to have material desires, worldly desires, they take delight in the flowery words of the Vedas that prescribe rituals for attaining power, riches, or rebirth in heaven. So Krishna dismisses the Vedas as being flowery. The words, not the Vedas, sorry. He dismisses the flowery words of the Vedas. He doesn't dismiss the Vedas, because the Vedas comes from him. But the Vedas are designed to elevate those who are in deep material consciousness. With their goal of enjoyment, they say there is nothing more than this. This is sort of what Krishna is explaining. However, Krishna goes on to explain in Bhagavad Gita chapter 7:21 to 23, that when a person desires to worship a particular demigod for the temporary and limited fruits he or she may bestow, Krishna as a supreme super soul in everyone's heart makes that person's faith in that demigod steady. Because it is better we have faith in someone. May not be Krishna, may not be the Supreme Lord, but at least it's somebody other than ourselves and somebody who's powerful within this universal structure. But Krishna also says that all the benefits given by any demigods actually are given by Krishna alone. For without whom one has no power, one has no power. The worshippers of the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but worshippers of Krishna reach Krishna's spiritual abode. So these are instructions in the 7th chapter about worship of the devatas to the Vedas. For one who has begun to endeavor for reaching the supreme goal of Vedic knowledge, the prescribed duties in the Vedas for worshipping the demigods are not necessary. So the vast amount of knowledge given in the Vedas do not apply to the devotees. As Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, text 17 and 18 explains, for one who is fully self-realized, there is no duty or need to perform the prescribed duties found in the Vedas, because he has no purpose or material desire to fulfill. So this is an explanation, putting the Vedic literatures or the 4 Vedas in context. That's why it's not recommended to read the Vedas in Kali Yuga, because we will spend a lot of time trying to read, trying to understand the Vedas and gain not much. So we've looked at the 4 Vedas. Now we look at the Upavedas. Although the 4 principal Vedas include the concept of spiritual perfection, it is not so thoroughly presented. The Vedas doesn't give this path that Krishna does in the Bhagavad Gita so easily, so quickly he gives it. Therefore, to help one understand the goal of Vedic philosophy, there are other compositions. There's the Brahmanas. So let's have a look where they. So the Vedas has all these different Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, Upanishads. So we're going to have a look at those. The Brahmanas are compositions that accompany different portions of the Ved Samhitas with additional directions and details that the Brahmin priests would use while performing the sacrificial rituals, along with their histories. The Brahmanas also hold cosmology, legends, and stories that explain the reason for performing the Vedic rituals, along with the esoteric significance of the mantras and the sacrificial rituals. The Aranyaks, they are sacred writings considered to be secret and dangerous to the uninitiated. The Aranyaks reveal more of the esoteric aspects of rituals and the purpose than the Brahmanas. They are meant only for the Brahmin priests and the Kshatriya warriors who have renounced all materialistic activities and retired to the solitude of the forest, which is the meaning of Aranyak. They include a strict style of worship to particular forms or aspects of God. These instructions could consist of which mantras to use for particular purposes, how to sit, in which time of the morning to practice, and so on. And then the Upanishads. They're meant for continued spiritual progress. Now, we've all heard of the Upanishads, and there are certain Upanishads which are quoted by Prabhupada in his translations or in his purports, especially the Katha Upanishad. So what are these? They're meant for the continued spiritual progress of the individual. The Vedas encourage worship of demigods for material needs, only hinting at the prospect of spiritual liberation, moksha. Moksha is not greatly covered in the Vedas. But the Upanishads, they start to explain how worldly attachments needs to be renounced so that we can surrender to God. So the Upanishads have a lot more detail. And that's why they are Shruti. The word Upanishad literally means to sit down, shad, near Upa, and below or at the lotus feet, or with determination, Upanishad. So it indicates that a student should sit near the feet of one's spiritual teacher and listen with determination to the teachings. Upanishads are a collection of 108 philosophical dissertations. However, there are over 100 additional lesser Upanishads, which are not actually part of the primary group, making a total of well over 200. It's a lot of Upanishads. Out of all the Upanishads, the following 11 are considered the most important. Isa, Kena, Katha. Katha Upanishad is often quoted. Prashna, Mundaka as well. Mandukya, Taittiriya, Aitariya, Chandogya, Birad, Ranyak, Shvetavattara. Again, Shvetavattara is also, in the Shvetavattara Upanishad, the size of the soul is described. And also it describes how there are two birds, parrots sitting in a tree. One is eating and the other is observing. So that is a description of our position compared to the super soul. We are eating the fruits and the super soul is looking at us, watching over us. The Upanishads mainly focus on establishing the absolute as non-material and describe it as Brahman, the eternal, unmanifested reality, source, and ultimate shelter of everything. So Upanishads only take you to a certain point in spiritual realization. They take you up to the point of Brahman, the formless aspect of God. They don't take you further necessarily into the personal form of the Lord. Again, it's a gradual process. The Brahman is said to be incomprehensible because the Brahman is this formless aspect of law, because it is without material qualities or form. The secret to understand Brahman, according to the Upanishads, is that they describe the absolute as having no material qualities or material personality, but consist of spiritual qualities. So this can be confusing. Right? So the example in the Isha Upanishad, it states, the Supreme Lord walks and doesn't walk. He is far, but he's very near as well. He is within everything, and yet he is outside of everything. So the point is that this absolute has spiritual legs to run or walk with, and spiritual senses that are not limited, like material senses. So the scriptures might say God does not walk, but actually he does walk, because he walks on spiritual legs, not material legs, not like our legs. Though the Upanishads generally refer to the absolute in an impersonal way, they also begin to establish that the supreme reality has form, or in other words, is a person, and that there is a divine abode. For example, the Gopal Tapani Upanishad 223 explains the nature of the supreme is this one. Sri Krishna has no birth, no old age. He is always in his adolescence, without any change. He is ever most effulgently shining, so gloriously more than the sun. He is fond of remaining with the divine cows of Golok Vrindavan. He is eternally fond of being with the Gopas, the cowherd boys, as he feels pleasure tending the cows. So very, very nice description in this Gopal. The Upanishads don't give so much information, but some Upanishads, as this one, gives information about the personal situation of Krishna. So we've covered this part of the Vedic knowledge. Now we look at the Upavedas, and Upavedas are here. We'll just have a very quick look. Upavedas means following the Vedas. These are the following scriptures.
Sorry.
Yes.
You say Katha Upanishad. Normally, I might be making mistake. Katha Upanishad or Katha Upanishad, are they both same?
This is Katha Upanishad.
Yeah. There is nothing Katha Upanishad, or there is Katha Upanishad.
It might be there, but that's not so prominent.
Okay.
The prominent Upanishads are these ones. So Isa, Kena, Katha.
That's what I thought. Katha, the spelling is same. K-A-T-H-O, Katho, no. K-A-T-H-U-P something. So
no, that's yeah. It might be there. It might be an Upanishad, but it's not the prominent.
Not this is Katha. Okay.
Yeah, that's Katha.
Different. Yeah. And yeah. Second thing. Can we go a little bit back and we see Ved? There is a 4 part of Ved, right?
Yeah.
This.
Atharvaved.
No, after that Upanishad. Aranya, Upanishad, Brahman. What they said 4 part. You said. Yeah.
They supplement the Ved.
Yeah. So Upanishad, Aranya means people has to go in Aranya, and then they do that things. Yeah.
Correct.
And Brahmin means they all rituals or whatever sloks or anything, they only meant by Brahman and Kshatriya, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Whoever do the karma kand, or they know much about that. Yeah.
They know a lot.
So Aranya when anybody wants to do, they must go in Aranya.
That's correct. No
Yeah.
material desires, no
Yeah,
material
yeah.
activities.
Yeah, and third thing was
Very good.
Aranya, and third was what was Iso, like you said, Iso Upanishad.
The Upanishads. Huh?
No, but there is, you say the meaning of that.
Yes.
You go and sit
It
nearby.
near the feet of the Lord. Yes. Of the Guru.
So that things you have to go nearby Guru.
Yes.
One you have to go in Aranya, and
Yes.
second, this one only you can learn by Guru, and you have
Yes.
to sit nearby Guru, right?
That's
Okay.
right.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Yeah, well done. Well done, Madhubin. Nice. Well done.
Okay. So Upanishad we have to learn from Guru, right? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Upavedas, there's four types. Artha, which is Arth means economics, economic development, sociology. Dhanur is defense, war. Gandharva, which is the art of music, singing, dancing. And Ayurveda, which is holistic medicine, medical science. So these all supplement the Vedas. So the Vedas, you can see, covers all aspects of life. Art, war, economics, medicine. There are smaller compositions, these are smaller compositions, each are attached to one of the four main samhitas, namely Rigs, Yajur, Sama, Atharva. Unfortunately, most of these compositions are difficult to find, except Ayurveda, the majority of which is still available, but not all in its original text. So that's Upavedas. Then we look at the Vedangas. Anga means part or limbs. Vedangas literally means limbs of the Vedas. There are 6 in number, just like the limbs of the bodies. They perform various supportive and augmenting functions in the study, preservation, and protection of the Ved and the Vedic traditions. The 6 Vedangas are Shiksha, Chanda, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Jyotish, and Kalpa. So very briefly, what these different ones are. These 6 were integral and essential part of ancient Vedic education system, aimed to promote an all-round development of the student with a better understanding of Vedas and Vedic practices. So Vyakarana is the science of Sanskrit grammar. Without this, it is easy for a person to mistranslate the real meaning or purpose of the Vedic mantra. Nirukta, so this is all part of the 6 of the Vedangas, the 6 limbs, provides the explanation of the Vedic words. They are used with Vyakarana to understand the exact meaning of the Sanskrit words, to make sure the Vedic Samhita mantras are not misunderstood. Shiksha, science of correct pronunciation of Vedic mantras, such as intonation, duration, and the accent on the word or syllable. This will determine how one sings each mantra. Differences in pronunciation of mantra can also change its meaning and the outcome of the ritual. This is one of the reasons why old Vedic rituals are no longer recommended for this day and age. The problem is that it is difficult to learn, and almost all books on the topic have become lost. Then we have the Chandas, science of correctly emphasizing the meter of the Vedic verses according to the division or parts and letters. So we even have to get the tune right. If you get the pronunciation wrong, you're stuffed. If you get the tune wrong, you got it. It doesn't work either. And the correct pronunciation of the words. The Vedic mantras also are also named according to its parts. Jyotish is the science of Vedic astrology. So astrologies come in here. They're used for a couple of reasons. Primarily, it was for establishing the correct position of the stars and planets at each at certain times, such as one's birth and their effects for predicting one's future life. It is also for calculating the best times to begin special activities, such as Vedic rituals. There are many books on Jyotish, but most have now become lost, leaving but several left to study. Not sure what that means, but yeah, mostly have been lost. Kalpa is a science of performing the rituals intended for proper application of the Vedic texts. There are numerous sets of Kalpa Sutras composed by various rishis, which systematically describe about the various religious activities and ceremonies like yajna, marriage, sacred ceremonies propounded by the Vedas. So we can stop there. That basically, we've had a brief look at Shruti, that which is heard. Tomorrow we look at Smriti, that which is remembered. It's a bit technical, this session, but if there's any questions, any comments, you're welcome to make them. Yes, sir.
Hello, Hare Krishna. I'm sure science, there are people in Varanasi and in other ancient places. They study these Vedas and they know more about it.
In the south, there is. When we go to Udupi, we will go to the Madhvacharya mutts, and we'll see the students there studying in the old traditional style gurukuls, learning these old Vedic scriptures, texts. Very powerful. But it has to be done expertly, otherwise you're going to lose the benefit of any, if there is any benefit, you're going to lose it. But there are there. I would say probably we've better chance of finding these pockets of nectar in the south, because they've held on to, at least some of the groups have held on to the old traditional styles of teaching.
Yeah. Okay, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Yes, Bhavin?
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Mataji, all devotees. Just one question. You said about Brahman, mantra should be said accurately. Are the mantras in Sanskrit or it's just normal Gujarati?
Nothing in Gujarati. All Sanskrit.
So when is Sanskrit? Definitely I can't say it.
Yeah. I mean, the Vedas are written in Sanskrit, and they are for the Brahmins who understand and can converse in Sanskrit. That's why it's recommended no longer to perform these Vedic rituals, because we don't know the pronunciations. We don't know how they are meant to be sung.
And even the Sanskrit mantras are said, and obviously if we don't know the meaning of it, then it's no good reading also. I mean, I'm not telling it's no good reading, but it should be somebody there like you to make us understand what it's
meant. Well, I don't know if I would understand, but yeah, correct. Otherwise, it's just like parrot fashion, and we may even be able to recite it correctly, but if you don't know the meaning, and this is why the Vedangas have the 6 of them. They explain not just how they chanted, but what those words mean. So it's very powerful. Very powerful.
So I have to learn again. And one more question. No, it's not the question. It's just that I have heard about it. And when you said Aswamedha.
Ashwamedha, yeah.
Yeah, that's the yajna?
That's the yajna.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
Yeah,
a lot of people like the Raja Maharaja used to do it.
Yudhishthir. Yeah.
Yudhishthir, yeah.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yes, Madhuben?
It's very interesting anyway. Thank you.
Thank you.
one thing. In Upanishad, they said, just you try go in meditation or do chanting or what, but you just try to find out your atma. Yeah. So when we try to go deeply to find out who am I and where, about atma, still we have to chanting about Bhagwan or whoever.
Right. Good question.
What do you have to do? Because
very good question. Very good question. You're right. Upanishads is mainly about self-realization and trying to connect with the Brahman, which is formless aspect of God. The thing is, that is possible, but in the previous ages. In this age, it's very hard to meditate and try to find the inner self. That's why in bhakti, when we connect with the Supreme Lord, Krishna, Ram, Vishnu, we don't have to do this to understand the soul. We don't have to do anything separately, because we are going to the root, because we are trying to go to understand the Supreme. Because we are watering the root of the plant, the whole tree becomes very happy. So even if we don't specifically understand who we are, the soul, if we are connected to the super soul, then he will give that understanding automatically. He will give that understanding directly. So this is the beauty of bhakti. So the Upanishads, the process of meditation, very hard. Whereas the Bhagavad Gita process of bhakti to understand God and us, very easy, because he's saying, whatever work you're doing, do it as a duty for me. Remember me while you're doing it. So we continue with what we do. We don't have to stop all of our work and just sit in meditation, because how are we going to do that?
That's right.
We have so many things to do. But what Krishna is saying, you can do those things for my benefit, for me, thinking of me as your duty to me. Then, you have a family, your duty is to look after the family. But do it remembering that family belongs to me. They're my children. They're in your care, but they're my children. Then that bhakti automatically will lead to what this Upanishads is giving, self-realization. But no separate.
Yeah. So in a short, like we normal human being, we have to concentrate in Supreme Lord, and he lead us right way.
Exactly.
That's the main thing, yeah?
Main thing. Very well summarized. Thank you. Thank you, Mother.
Thank you.
Well done. Okay, so we can stop there. Vedas ki jai, Sanatana Dharma ki jai, Vedic Dharma ki jai.